also refers to a city of Castellón and is going to be presented by José Juan Oliva. He's an architect of OPTA, Architecture and Urbanism. I would like to thank the organization for inviting us to share with you our experience in the use of the gvSIG in the writing of urban plans. We have the protection plan from the historical city of Burriana. I'm going to give you a few ideas about what really we want to convey to you regarding our experience using the gvSIG within the planning. First of all, we should indicate that as a technical multidisciplinary, we are using gvSIG as a tool, and as final users, we had not been using some modules. There is no a step ahead. It's a basic use with a series of processes which are very simple and which we consider necessary in order to be able to analyze and manage the decisions that have to be taken in an urban planning project. I'll try to show you the development of an architectural study, a multidisciplinary architectural study, in which we had the logic development that was started in 2008. We already knew gvSIG, but we use other tools as most of the agricultural, as most of the architects. We were using text processor or graphic processors, but they do not adjust to the technical capacities that we have, like the gvSIG and in the form of open software, when we tackle the difficult task to do urban planning. And this is also an urban planning which is dealing with protected old cities. I'm going to show you the use which we have done from it, the analysis of the information that we collect and receive, and the decision making in order to tackle the strategies that should also be included in the plan. So this is not just urban development information, but also the improvement proposals that should be introduced in order to improve the protected buildings in all cities. So I think we should summarize what is urban planning. To start with, the dictionary of the Royal Language Academy says that urbanism is a complex discipline which is linked to the organization and ordering of all these issues. This is a discipline which is really really recent. Is about 1855 when we have the first general plan, and usually the most important people which were doing those plans were physicians, doctors, for a question of hygiene in order to improve the health condition of the city. So it's a discipline that has been formed in the last 1.5 centuries, and it has evolved both in the techniques and the differentiation. And the objective of the urban planning is the city and the territory in a more kind of modern urban environment, but it's difficult to cover because all the human activities coincide in the same physical space, and sometimes they have their material qualities which can be anthropic in nature, and these qualities have a fourth dimension, which is the evolution along the time. So there are many different factors that take place here. In order to project this, we have also the intervention of many technical disciplines and professional disciplines in all the fields, from advocates, historians, sociologists, architects, many of them. All those multidisciplinarities that each person has his or her own tool and his or her own way of expressing their knowledge. So different tools are used by different professions that intervene, and all of them with a territorial organization. For instance, in the case of the protection of the old cities, and this has to lead to a close-up to the real complexity along all this time. This is one of the most internal evidence program up to now. Always refurbishment had to do with the reform plan of 1910. We use the graphic technique of paper and ink. The only thing is that the production of this plan is done by hand with a series of means which are very specific. We have the city existing, and the two reforms which were the avenue of El Real and the West Gran Via, which in part has been done and in part is not. From this evolution, how we continue working in the urban planning, how this has been applied to a city with an evolution of the technique, but still having one single objective. And the plan that we see, the projection, is only the projected result of the intervention in the city. We see that in 1988, many of the things that now exist were already planned, as if we could plan and execute that plan just overnight. Changes in economic cycles, changes in the social thinking, changes in the political cycles, and an evolution of those tools make this be what is today. In my idea, the accumulation of data, the collection of data, and the based then we'll out of it, out of the compilation of data and the field work, then we analyze the information, and then we proceed to the generation of the project. The little arrows that you see, you have the capability to do a correct analysis of the situation, and also they analyze the project that is proposed. As far as this is an old city with a series of heritage elements which have more problems, this is done with more difficulty, and the information in origin is highly diversified. First of all, because the sources are large, and we can speak about historical pictures from 1700, then mecanograph art, or All the formats, the only quality of formats that we criticize, and also the quantity is excessive. And we should understand this and have a clear vision of the city, of the territory environment, and of and this will allow us to understand the problems of the future. And we have some plans of alienation, heights, and a standard of protection, the standard for uses and properties. And that allows us to assess which are the actions that take place on those areas, and whether it is possible to refurbish them or not. Within our analysis of the Burriana Historical Center, and they said, well, the first thing we have to do is an inventory. If such an inventory has 170,000 square meters, and more than 878 buildings, then just regarding the existing reality, but probably we would have been able to select some more. And from out of this, we can then prepare the catalog with all the values that make this building protected. Our result was 178 protected buildings in some degree, and out of them 79 data recover for the patrimonial, for the heritage information that we have. This is the result that we have if we do nothing else. Here we have a notebook full of photos, data. That was in order to be able to analyze the problem of this and then we can make the necessary decision, allowing us to apply strategies on the issue. So this was the approach of our team to provide a qualitative base. This allowed us to be able to index them and execute a series of filters. This first step is very interesting, especially due to the volume, 22,000 fields just for the buildings. This type of data, they are referenced in the territory. So therefore, the most natural tool that you may have in order to carry out this analysis and these proposals is gvSIG, and that was the final step. The first approach would be, well, the same thing that we have in a database, we have in an attributes table of the gvSIG with an additional advantage that we can create the other infrastructures as I used to do from all the interrelated data. Thus obtaining data which allow us to understand why an area of the city is more degraded than other, and why in other areas they have more activities and so on. And our idea is the plastic representation. There is nothing more graphic than being able to understand a problem through a drawing. 22,000 data on a list is very nice. It's very good to be able to understand and explain the the city council managers, which is the problem and which are the possible solutions to the problem. problem. So once we contacted the gvSIG in order to process the information, we started to think about being able to offer a series of reasonings about the real situation of the Historical Council of Burriana. The improper elements are those which do not correspond to the places, to the times. For instance, a 16th century furniture with an aluminium window, so it's not so terrible. The Burriana Museum in such a situation. A good conservation guarantees a good value nowadays. We in the regulation have to regulate the matter of the historical aspect, and then we have the carpentry. The windows were in water, in ice cream, and see if they are integrated in the environment in which we are working. Because that also means about the 50% of all the carpentry elements that we use nowadays. So it is more adequate to think well, we are going to review which is the type of aluminium we allow and which conditions, so that they know whether they are incorporated within the historical assembly. Indian and urban development plan also says which are the possibilities of edification of a building depending on how many floors we plan, and we have also to detect which are the we can generate a transitory an interim disposition and provisions so that we can do some refurbishment in the meanwhile. If not, if we do not know which are the cases, we cannot create a standard, a regulation. So this phase of analysis, which is quite simple, we have been developing just a few, but it was very useful to take measures that we could introduce in the planning, which is an advance. You have 3 minutes left, because the second part, which is the proposal of the different strategies to prepare in order to promote the rehabilitation of a historical center. Different social and economic interests on a very old fabric. This dates back to the 30th century. This is an Islamic mesh, which is logical, and there was a very important discussion about what to do with the graphic resource, so access to vehicles, which was prepared. And this tool allows us to make those decisions, to contribute with strategies which allow us to have a motivated explanation about why is this adequate in a basement. If we do not know which is the state of preservation of the facade, it is very difficult to quantify and is an instrument that you can use in order to provide different aids, governmental aids. Some of them we can calculate which is the relative cost, because what we are not going to gain in one But here we have the promotion of a complete refurbishment of an environment. Here, I'm finishing. In the end, the generation of the project, the gvSIG can be used for the graphical representation and translation of a closed project. For us, that's very important. It was even more important to from different professions that intervene. The gvSIG was a part of the common tool, but we are especially interested in the city because it contains the data that the planning is approved and is enforced, but the data for that planning, they are reused, and then they will have to receive a training in prevention and strategies in the next years in which the plan is going to be implemented.
Gracias, José Juan.
Thank you, José Juan. Are there any questions to José Juan?